Hello everyone and welcome back to another video here on the channel. I hope everyone's doing well. Now, as per the title of this video, today is going to serve as a bit of an intro to using Bricklink Designer Studio 2.0. Now, this is a really helpful and powerful tool if you're into designing digital Lego models for yourselves. It's really helpful in the sense that you don't actually need the bricks to build the models that you want to build, and it's got such a wide range of parts. It is the best option out there if you're looking to design digital Lego models. So right away, before you even get started, I'm going to show you how to download Bricklink Studio. So you're going to want to go into Chrome and you just search in Bricklink Studio 2.0 download, and you're going to go to the first option that pops up under the Bricklink website and click on this link. And this is just going to take you to the download page. You should see something that resembles this, and you're just going to click this yellow Download Studio for Windows. Now, since I've already downloaded Studio, I'm not going to go through this completely, but once you've got it downloaded, launch the program, and then you should be all good to go. Sorry about that, everyone. Editor me just jumping in here. A lot of problems that I see beginner Studio users having is that when they try and download the program, it asks them to create a folder called Studio 2.0 or something where the program can be stored. So if you just quickly jump into your file explorer and save a folder called Studio 2.0 in your documents section, and then select this as the folder it's asking for, you should be able to run the program with no problems. I know this is a big issue a lot of people come across, and you cannot physically use the program without a folder called this. So hopefully this helps if you encounter this issue. Anyways, back to the video. So, when you open Studio, you should see a page that resembles something like this. So this is your Studio, and this is area with the studs here. This is your build plate, and you can drag parts from the search bar onto the build plate like this and place them down, and they will appear in your build plate. So first of all, in order to move around on your build plate, you will hold down on your right mouse button and you'll be able to rotate around. Okay, to access a brick, click on it, left click on it, and hold and then drag with your left click mouse button, and you'll be able to pull the bricks around. Alright, so first things first, you can search for any part you want in this side menu. There's also this sort of helpful category section which allows you to filter things. So if I was to click on slope here, it'll bring me up a bunch of slope parts, and this is every single slope piece in Lego's portfolio that Studio has. Now, granted, it may not be completely up to date with some of the newer parts as they're constantly updating, and there are still some parts that aren't on here, but it's pretty good for the most part. So, now I'm going to run you through some of the tools that you're going to want to use while you're using Studio. So the first one already I've got up here on the toolbar in the top left-hand corner of the screen. I've got Select, so that's what I'm currently using right now to hold and drag this brick. The second tool is the hinge, which is one over to the right. You click on the hinge, you left click on it, and when you click on an object with hinge, it should appear with these three sets of arrows here. Now, these arrows will be useful in the sense that you can click on it, and once they're glowing yellow, you can left click and move them, and that will allow you to rotate your brick in any way you want. Okay, so I can do up and down, kind of like that, to the side, and then rotate around like that as well. So it's a very useful tool if you want to get sort of angles that you wouldn't be able to get. Say, for example, if I look for one of the tiles with a jumper on the top, so we go modified for that because the 2x2 plate's been modified. If I click on this, and then I go with this, and I pull it over here, I can use the hinge tool to move it around and get it to pivot on that singular stud there. So that can be very useful. Alright, in order to move the brick again, you just select hinge, and that goes for all of these. So you can move that off. And in order to get rid of this, you literally just click on it, and we can press backspace, and it'll be deleted. Okay, now the next one is the move tool. So these are all pretty standard. Click on your brick, and you'll get these three arrows, and you can just click, left click, and drag, and that'll allow you to move the piece across the plate wherever you see fit. Our next tool is going to be the clone tool. So you click on the clone tool, and any brick you select will instantly be cloned. Alright, so you left click any brick. If you were to now, if you place this brick down, this tool is very helpful for if you need 20 of one brick to be placed, and you don't want to be going into the menu and dragging them out for every single one. So you just put clone on, you click on the brick, and you click when you place it, it automatically summons another brick that is identical to that on your cursor, and you can do this as many times as you like. And then all you do to stop it is you just click select again, and it'll turn off the clone. You'll get the last clone that you had, and click it, and no more cloning anymore. Okay? Right, so now you'll see I've got a lot of bricks on my plate here, and I don't necessarily want them. So to get rid of those, I'm going to find a space that does not have any parts on it. I'm going to left click and hold, and you'll see this black box popping up. And you select all the bricks you want to get rid of and press backspace. Alright, and now you're left with the one brick again. You can drag that back to the middle. Alright, now our next tool is going to be the collision tool. So if I was to say grab another brick into here, and I use the move tool to push that brick into this brick. Now, this is not physically possible to do in the Lego world. So if you turn the collision tool on, it will make all the bricks that are not actually possible to happen and they are colliding with each other appear transparent. And that allows you, just if you wanted to use Bricklink to design models that you would transfer into the real world, this shows you whether it's actually realistic that you can create this model or not. And then our next tool is probably the most helpful tool out there, and this is the snap tool and the grid tool. So if I just go ahead and let's find a plate, a nice big plate here, I can put that down there. You see the collision tool activating again. So if I just chuck that down here, okay, and I put this on, then if I go up here, you'll notice that as I move this brick around, it's automatically fitting to the studs placed on the build plate. And that's because the snap tool is making it fit to these. And that coincides with how tight your grid is. So the it will snap to the grid, essentially. So if I move this over here, let's say maybe I don't want that to be there, and I had some other parts and I needed it to be a slightly different spot. And so I would go into the grid here, and if I click on the arrow to go down on the grid, you'll see that there are 3 options for how tight you want the grid to be. So if I go to the tightest one, it's not going to change much. It's just going to make sure that it is basically 100% of the time following this grid pattern. Now, say I need it to be a little bit looser, and I'm trying to place it, but it's just snapping to the grid, and I can't seem to get it to work in any way, shape, or form. I'll go into the grid, click on the arrow again, and go to the one at the bottom, and this is the fine grid. And that will mean that you can move this around, and I haven't got the best demonstration here. If I try and move it around, it won't snap as easily. So if I want to, say, move this part, I can move it across, and I've got a lot more control, okay? So if I just move it, it's not really working with me here. Give me 1 second. So I have a lot more control when I do move. See how it's not quite snapping to every block. Whereas if I was to set it to the big grid, it will just snap to every stud there, okay? And so the middle one is your default grid. That's probably the best for just working with parts in general. However, if you really need something quite fine and detailed, then the fine grid is probably the option for you. I don't really think there's any situation where I would choose to use the big grid over anything else. It's just that it's a little inconvenient when you're trying to create models. Okay, now that we've gone over the general movement on your plate, how about I'll show you some of these more finer search settings and all this stuff on the right side here. So, within the search bar itself, you have a few options. Now, you can obviously change how big you want the parts to be displayed by clicking on the thumbnail size. Personally, I prefer just the medium size because I think it gives you the biggest selection of parts and you can just see them in a nice amount of detail that isn't too detailed, but if you go that big, you don't really need to see the parts that big anyway, and that's just a little too small on the fine one. Next, across from that, moving to the left, you'll see this little brick icon. So this is turning on decorated bricks, which is basically stickered or printed parts. You see when I turn this on, if I get rid of the plate, I turn that on, and I search up plate, let's go tile, search up tile, see now that I'm getting parts which have stickers and prints applied to them, all this, ones, twos. So this is good for accessing Lego's sort of printed wider portfolio of parts, but it can be a little bit annoying because then you have to scroll through all of these parts just to find the one that you're looking for. So I don't usually turn the modified decorated bricks on, I tend to leave it off, but it can be helpful if you're looking for a specific printed part and you know what you're looking for. And then the next one to the left is the color selection. So if you click on this, it'll open up the color selector, and this has every single color which has ever been printed or made in Lego, even ones that aren't being produced to this day. So you click on the individual colors and it'll narrow your options down. So maybe I want a medium violet 1x1 tile. I can drag it in and it's now violet. Okay? So that's basically the search bar for you. If we go over to the right side, you can see maybe I actually wanted this brick to be white. Okay, so if I click on this brick and go over to the top right hand side here at the color palette, and I click on this, I'll get the same menu that I get in the search bar, and I can just change this to say bright green, and it becomes bright green on the model. Okay, so that's very useful if you're just trying to figure out which color you want but you're not quite sure. It's also just good if you think, I would look better in orange or something later on. Okay, now, just below that you can see I've had a bit of an error here. So, I've got an exclamation mark next to the brick 1x2x2 that I've just made bright green. And this is, again, another important thing if you want to actually build your models in the real world and maybe go into Bricklink and buy the parts. See, this part is not actually available to be purchased on Bricklink at all, and neither is this 1x1 lavender tile. So every single part that cannot be purchased on Bricklink currently will appear with a yellow exclamation mark next to it, which basically just lets you know, hey, you can't actually use this brick. So it can be fun if you just want to use the digital bricks and you're not really fussed about whether it can be used in the real world. However, if you are concerned that you actually want to be able to construct this model in real life, then you'll probably want to pay attention to this and maybe, hey, I guess I can't have it in bright green, so instead I'm going to make it, I don't know, reddish brown, which I know is a part that's definitely available. And there you go, the exclamation mark is gone. Now, I'm just going to go into a quick time lapse. I'm going to build a Grian minifigure, a Grian brickheads, and then I'll come back to you once I finish that up to show a couple more features, and then we'll wrap the video up. Alright. Just go over a couple of quick tools that I didn't go over in the first area where I just had the one brick to work with. So Now that you've got this entire model, I'm sure it doesn't exactly look like green. He's looking a bit like a funnel at the top here, but not bad for about half an hour of a work. So what you can do is, if you want to move this entire model, you'll want to left click and drag, and it will select all the parts, and you can also see that in the right hand column here. And now what you can do with this is, if you want to move the whole thing, you can left click and drag, and it'll glow green, and the whole thing will move with your left click and drag. So that's really useful when you want to move around an entire model, or maybe if you even want to just move around selected parts of the model. So you want to grab that top half and move it. Alright. I did also forget to mention earlier that you can use Control V, Control C, and Control Z when you're using Studio, and that makes things a whole lot easier in some areas. Additionally, you can also rotate your bricks by using the up, down, left, right arrow keys. So I can do that, and it moves the whole thing around. Some of you may have seen me using that in a time lapse and gone, what? Anyway, so those are some really important tools that you can use just to speed things up a little bit. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck going move everything every time you want to do something. So it can get a little bit tedious. Another thing I thought I'd just cover is quickly how to position and move minifigures, because I know that minifigures bring a build to life. So that's what a lot of people are going to want to be using. Now, I'll probably go over minifigures in a bit more detail in my next video, which will be the Bricklink Studio Designer, which is where you can create custom parts and minifigures. So I'll go over minifigures in a bit more detail there, but just the basics are, you can move the arm by clicking on it, and you'll get two little things. When you click the top one, that will allow you to move the arm and the hand in its entirety, and you can do a whole 360 degrees there. And so that's really useful when you want it to maybe move and keep the item. So if I was to search for like a bar or something that a minifigure could use, and I rotate it using the arrow key, it should, if I could rotate it a little bit here, be positioned, and that will snap into his hand. And then when I click on this arm piece here and go to move it, everything, including the thing in his hand, will get moved. So that can be a really nice tool just when you're dealing with minifigures. Another thing is positioning of the legs. If you click this right angle with the arrow here that pops up, when you click on those, it will isolate you from the rest of the model, so you're only dealing with the legs here. And you just click on one of the legs, and that will move that there. And you can also do that with the front leg as well. And then, once you're done with that, deselect the entire model and go down here in the bottom right, return to main model, and you'll have your posed running minifigure. So yeah, anyways, that probably brings me to the end of this video. I will be making a couple more videos. This was just a starter video. So if you want to see a little bit more detail and how to really refine your builds and make them look cool, as in like renderings, so that you can actually make them look like they're completed, because obviously your builds don't look incredible in this version as well. Also creating custom parts and custom minifigures as well. So make sure to subscribe, hit the like if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, and otherwise I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.